Mount Terror, the awakening beneath the ice. At Mount Terror, still unnoticed by our demonic visitors, a being awakened deep within the trench that links the three volcanoes of the Ross Islands. There, 2 kilometers below the surface, lay a vast structure of colossal stone blocks built by architects who, in ages long past, had come from the depths of outer space. These gigantic entities, born of a star system lost in the endless depth of time, had entered our solar system through a wormhole, pursued by a monstrous force, formless and bodiless, that had devoured the inhabitants of countless worlds. It was then that this ancient creature encountered the Grutanes, a race that had attained unimaginable power and had taken it upon themselves to protect those civilizations that were still undeveloped. When that ageless being, older than the cosmos itself, took form upon Earth and began to draw energy from its primitive natives, consuming some and transforming others into adepts, the Grutanes managed to isolate and imprison their enemy. All this had occurred in a vanished eon. But since the Grutanes had achieved immortality by ascending into a world of light, time no longer mattered. One of their kind had been placed into a frozen sleep, enduring the decaying flow of centuries within a body, a fragile vessel bound to aging and entropy. Through the superior science of the Grutanes, Mbano, the sleeper, was able to animate a body crafted upon Earth. This last of his kind inhabited the long-abandoned ruins of the Grutanes residence beneath the Antarctic ice, an underground complex sprawling across vast distances. Mbano guarded Ctulluh, as the being had named itself when it took form upon the planet. Why it had denied its eternal nature was unknown to the Grutanes, and even Mbano could not tell. As long as the prisoner retained any substance distinguishable from its surroundings, the Grutanes technology held it captive. Since the dawn of the lost eon, Mbano, through his avatar, had watched humanity evolve. He had seen mankind lifted from its primitive state by other cosmic races, who had already sought to counter Cthulhu's baleful influence, the force that made men demonic and set nations upon each other. Moria had witnessed the first rise of humanity from unformed spirit. The first men were clumsy and gigantic, yet they materialized bodies for themselves and eventually divided into races. Moria perished in fire and volcanic fury. Was that the work of Ctulluh? The Grutanes had summoned guardians to guide the people of Atlantis, to lead them toward wondrous mastery. But Ctulluh appeared as a god, and ever more Atlanteans surrendered to his darkness. At last, the Grutanes were forced to drown the entire Atlantean race, to save the remainder of humankind from corruption. Mbano himself had remained a silent observer. When Ctulluh harnessed the devouring energy of a black hole to forge a counterworld, a realm where his earthly followers were preserved after death, the Grutanes intervened one final time. Deep within the Antarctic fortress lay a region capable of trapping any intruder. Ctulluh entered the snare and had remained confined for centuries, guarded only by Mbano, the last of the Grutanes. He felt nothing, no triumph, no relief. He belonged to an immortal race. Even though he now possessed a body that could be wounded, time and death were meaningless to him. The captive, as eternal as he, never attempted contact. He simply was, waiting, while Mbano watched from beyond the energy field. What the monstrous Ctulluh awaited, Mbano did not know. Yet he noticed that new helpers of mankind often came from the worlds of light. Cruel were these humans, cunning, violent, deceitful. They waged wars, plundered, and killed until a holy being was sent from the realm of light to show them the path to the higher world. That was the first time Ctulluh had stirred. Mbano believed that a source of his power had been taken from him. For although humans remained as wicked as ever, a way toward ascent had been shown, and many now refused to serve Ctulluh, whom they named Devil or Satan. When the demons of Moria set foot upon Antarctica, Mbano sensed their presence at once. Energy from beyond the light worlds was destructive, yet it was still energy, and Ctulluh recognized this kinship of essence. In his prison, among fallen monoliths and within the energetic void where he brooded, Waves of that dark power penetrated the Grutanes barrier, granting Ctulluh the manifestation of a first shadow. He began to regain form. The evil of Moria was younger than Ctulluh. The dark forces within Moria were the products of an eon born long after that of the Grutanes, who, like every culture that transcended the material, had ascended into the light realms that received them. Only a few watchers had remained behind to keep the younger worlds from falling into darkness. Satisfied, they had watched new forces of preservation arise. Satisfied, they had watched new forces of preservation arise. The people of the world Manticore had grown and likewise transcended physical form, leaving only a few behind to restrain the evil that always seemed to arise with the good. Many races were born, evolved, and wandered between light and shadow. On countless planets, darkness triumphed, drawing their inhabitants into the negative worlds beyond black holes. Manticore was among the few where light had prevailed. As there was the world of light to which ascension led, so too existed the world of darkness, governed by its own laws. Ctulluh was not truly a being. He was darkness itself, a remnant of an eon as old as creation. When he reached Earth, the Grutanes feared the destruction of their wards, yet were astonished to see him take shape, absorbing all hatred and malice that had grown within this young world. In unholy rituals, the dreadful Ctulluh was worshipped, and he seemed to revel in his role as a god. The two enemies faced each other, without hatred, without emotion. Over the span of countless eons, feelings as humans know them had withered away. They did not speak. Each understood the force that moved the other. As ancient as the Grutanes were, the other had existed before them. And yet, since worlds continued to evolve and endure, perhaps their struggle would never truly end. Others would one day take the place of the Grutanes. Only that shadow before him would remain unchanged. Was it he who would one day devour the material worlds? And what then, Mbano wondered, but he dismissed the thought. It was futile. He checked the isolation field and strengthened the energy barriers until the shadow faded once more. "I wait, but my sleep will end," it murmured, sounding like the grinding of ice above the station.